Nothing changes instantaneously. In a gradually heating bathtub, you'd be boiled to death before you knew it. Our Father, who art in heaven. Seriously? What the actual fuck?
Gilead doesn't care about children. Gilead cares about power.
Why does healing have to be the only goal? Why can't we be as furious as we feel?
For whatever man sows, so shall he reap.
Welcome to Above the Garage.
Hi, friends. Welcome to our analysis of Season 4, Episode 10 of The Handmaid's Tale, which is entitled Wilderness, the Season 4 finale. Let's do our round of introductions and dive in.
Hi, I'm Kimberly.
Hi, I'm Sarah.
I am Melissa.
Hi, I'm Helen.
And I'm Kate. So this episode was written by the man himself, Bruce Miller, and directed by Liz Garbus, and it's awesome. The episode opens with new shots of Fred and June dancing at Jezebel's. It has to look like love. That's what he needs. Pretend you like it. Pretend you love it. Pretend you want him. He is your commander. Make him your whole world, your sun, your moon, and all your stars. Make him believe, because your motherfucking life depends on it. Don't run, don't kick, don't scream, don't bite it off, don't bite. And throughout her voiceover, Fred's being about as lecherous as humanly possible, but June's playing along. And that was why Jezebel's really leveled up the abuse to me. Making somebody pretend to love their rapes is just a whole new level of vile.
So June's been having these flashbacks of her trauma since coming to Canada. But at the same, like right now, when she's found out that Fred's going to walk, she thinks about Jezebel's immediately. So is that the most harrowing part of her experience with Fred in Gilead?
Yeah, that's a good point. But like I said, I think it would be for me. Like having to pretend to like it is just so much worse, right? The ceremony is terrible. It's still rape, 100,000%. But, you know, you're able to lay there and just like get it over with. But then going to Jezebel's and spending a night dancing and, you know, pretending that you love him is, so yes, I would, that's a good point. It must have been.
I just had the point that it was so disgusting when he licked her ear. I was like, no, thank you.
So disgusting.
It's hard to watch, and I feel bad for Joe, because can you imagine playing that part?
Yeah.
And he did for 4 years.
Yeah.
Oh my God. He's an amazing actor, and he did an amazing job.
I mean, even this episode, he just gave it his all. But yeah, it's crazy. It's our last episode with him, and I feel bad because he's clearly such a nice guy in real life that playing this is just, I don't know. I wouldn't have enjoyed it, but thank you, Joe.
I have a little article that might go well here if I read it. In an interview of Elle magazine, he was asked, how did he feel about saying goodbye to this character? And what was the last day on set like for you? He said it was very emotional, and he's grown to love and cherish his time on the wonderful relationships I have with the cast, crew, actors, directors, producers, everyone. And he goes on to say they're a tight-knit community, and there's a part of me that feels so honored to be involved in a show that caught the zeitgeist. I'm sad to leave behind such a great company who have raised my game as an actor, but also I'm elated to not have to grow that awful, itchy, grisly beard and step into the slimy shoes of Fred. I feel rather happy that I don't have to go down that really nasty, treacherous road again.
Oh, see?
Yep.
It took a lot out of him. Thank you, Joe. You were amazing.
Also, I think Liz Garbus was nominated for an Emmy for directing this episode.
Directing.
And Liz also make the documentaries, right? Not shows.
Yeah, she did documentaries first, yeah.
It's impressive what she's done.
Right. Seems like a big switch, but she did amazing. After the show name pops up, we open with June in a waiting room looking down on the city when Tuello approaches and greets her. She sighs dramatically and tells him she really would prefer if he weren't here. And he says he understands and he'll be as quick as possible, but I actually think he should have fucking listened and gotten Rachel or someone else. Have some respect, asshole. And on their way up, he recites the news all over again. I'm not sure this is necessary. It's not like her Miranda rights, but whatever. Fred's been offered a plea agreement, but you can record a statement to the court before the agreement is final. And they enter this large empty room with just a camera and a chair. He claims there was no disrespect intended by nobody being able to listen, but that's bullshit. They did this exactly to make her feel unimportant, in my opinion. And he adds insult to injury by adding that these statements don't do shit. It's all for nothing. And Fred's going to walk. And she asks him if he's everything he hoped for. Tuello says, absolutely. Then she hits him with a line that I will never forget. And I think about way too often lately. Weak men, They do do make the world go round. And he is aware she is not just talking about Fred. He says, I'm on your side, Miss Osborne. And June reminds him, I was a prisoner that Waterford would sometimes take out to fuck, and you're going to set him free. You don't have a side. And Tuello thanks her and walks out. The conversation has taken place in front of a glass wall with the city like looming large over her and making her look small. And then she goes to her chair as the camera guy tries to figure out the camera that they haven't even sorted yet. They've now tried to make this as smooth as possible for her. And her feet aren't even flat on the ground. The chair's too high. So it just adds more to that, making her feel insignificant and unvalued.
Yeah. I don't know if you notice, but when they are going up the stairs, Tuello's voice is lower. So it makes me feel like June isn't listening to him. It sounds like he was babbling, and it's kind of funny. And I think that Tuello knows that he can't expect her to be comfortable with all this. But I think at least he's honest about everything he said in this scene. And when June asks if the water force was everything he wishes for, he pauses like, she got me. But I think he answers honestly, you know. And Tuello, what he wanted was intelligence about Gilead power structure. So he didn't care about the handmaids, you know, or ex-handmaids. So June was a bait. But Tuello reminds me of the Swiss when they also asked June for the same thing. So that reminds me Nick saying that the politicians have their own agenda and they don't care about people in general.
Yeah, it's what June later says to Moira, like what he's giving them, it's more valuable than what he took from me. So she understands that. But then on the other hand, I don't know, I keep thinking, why didn't Tuello explore the possibility of other contacts in Gilead, like Nick? Like, why jump on the Fred train and let him go if there are other possibilities to get the information that he wants, you know, without letting a rapist go free? So that was also what I was thinking watching that.
Yeah, it's just crazy to me how like unimportant June was once Fred started spilling the tea.
Yeah.
You know, they were just like, we've got Fred now, we don't really need you. See ya.
And it's weird that they think he's trustworthy even at this point. Like, I mean, he's a real criminal, like an actual criminal.
Right.
And they trust him now for some reason. Like, why?
And we see he's not willingly giving the information later either about the women at Jezebel's, you know, like he's thinking about not telling them.
Exactly. He seems so dishonest there.
Exactly. So it doesn't make any sense. I hate it so much. I'm not saying it wouldn't happen, because it might in real life, but
I feel like that does happen a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a lot of rape situations that it's the woman's responsibility to prove it. Like the woman is the last person everyone is going to listen to. Like the woman always needs to make her case.
Right.
And if the man is speaking, then, you know, especially politicians or people who have interest in getting information like Tuello are going to listen to a man who was in power in this country they're interested in. So
yeah,
doesn't matter that June got 86 kids out of Gilead and a couple of Marthas. Doesn't matter.
It's crazy. It's so upsetting. Just like as a rape victim, that's not even close to the end of your trauma if you do take them to court, you know? They tear apart your character. They don't believe you. It's nearly impossible to believe. And, you know, you see people that have done it and they say like doing it was worse than the rape, you know, going through all this. And how fucking heartbreaking is that?
Yeah.
When she's finished, she walks outside and she looks up at the sky and it reminds her of the Waterford ceiling. She says, blue, I let it take me. Blue moon, blue velvet, blue man group. And we see her being raped by them again before she closes her eyes and looks up at the clouds. A train is passing, a red train. But I mean, she's feeling the same trauma from being in there and recording this testimony to an empty room. You know, it's not any closure to her. She's feeling extreme PTSD more now. So it's really sad.
If they had given her more attention and more respect, things would have turned out differently, I think. So the episode wouldn't end the way it ends if they'd given her the attention. So.
Right. And it's like extra infuriating to me the way that they did that camera, the single camera, single chair, huge room. There are people that can be spared to come listen to her and make her feel like they care, Maybe it's not going to do anything, but show her some respect. And they did the exact opposite.
I searched about the color blue and what it represents. And the blue color, blue is the color that conveys security, tranquility, and protection. And it's also related to masculinity. And in the show, obviously, is the tone related to the wife. So I think she returns to the same dissociative state from episode 102. And the difference is that she's now free, quote unquote. Mentally, she's still in Gilead. But I think she remembers that particular part of the ceremony because the color blue in the ceiling and in the sky now is peaceful. So like she needs some tranquility and peaceful because she's so angry.
Yeah.
June gets home and the kitchen is bustling. Moira's on the phone, Rita's cleaning, and Luke's waiting in the doorway for her. Asked her how it was. She says it was shitty, but it's done. And Nicole starts crying. Before getting her, Luke says, "You're here, Nicole's here. We just got to count our blessings," and kisses her on the head. She says, "I know, you're right, but that's definitely not what she's feeling." And Rita asks her if she wants tea or food, and I love this interaction. And June stops her. "Rita, I'm going to need you to stop serving me, and I need you to stop cleaning." And I love Amanda Brugel's delivery here when she tells her, "I'm working on it with my therapist, so sit down." Moira hangs up the phone angry, yelling that they're sending Waterford to fucking Geneva at the end of the week and he's free to set up wherever he wants with his Viking-ass wife. And Rita and Moira disagree on whether June should go to Geneva or not. Rita is very much of the Luke school of thought. June recognizes it just won't do any good, even if she does. Moira says she can do interviews, talk to the press. Then June says, "You guys do that." And Rita says, "Nope, don't include me in this." She does not have a vengeful bone in her body. Moira repeats, "They've got to listen to you. You're June fucking Osborne," and June says, "Maybe he's more important than I am. I told my story. I told them everything. They know what he was, what he did, and how it felt, and they made a deal with him anyway. So maybe what he's giving them is more important than what he took from me." And then Moira's phone rings and she leaves, still adamant that June's going to Geneva.
I'm confused that before Moira didn't even want her to testify in person, did she?
Yeah, it is confusing.
And now all of a sudden she's changed her tune.
Yeah, I guess she thought he was going to get justice back then, and June's testimony wasn't necessary. Like she could write her testimony, and he was still going to go to jail no matter what. And now that it's changed dramatically, she realizes she's not comfortable with him walking. I don't know. Yeah, it is different. You're right.
But she's angry because she knows that's unfair. But unlike June, she's looking for civilized ways to express her anger. And June knows that bureaucracy is pointless in this kind of cases.
Yeah, she's just coming from this experience, kind of dimmed. It's not going to work. So, but her face falls when Moira leaves the room. So she's feels like for a second there she's done fighting for the moment.
Then Fred's looking through pictures of women. He recognizes the one in question, but can't come up with her name. And there are 3 women interviewing him. Dr. Martina Burnell was last posted at Jezebel's in Boston. Is that where you saw her? And he lies through his teeth and says, contrary to what they might have been told, he didn't frequent Jezebel's. And they don't believe him at all, asking if he interacted with her on any of his infrequent visits then. Can he confirm she's deceased? And he hesitates to answer, like he's still thinking about lying to them, like we mentioned earlier. And the woman tells him she knows how hard this is for him, vomit, but he's bringing closure to families. And then he confirms that she died in an accident with Commander Johnston. When asked if he faced charges, Fred reacts like that would be silly. Oh no, I don't believe there's any intent to harm. Pigs, the lot of them. And then Serena steps outside to meet with Tuello and lecture him on the lack of respect her rapist husband is receiving as he condones the murder of sexual slaves. When Tuello points out, your husband is admitted to brutal crimes, many of which you witnessed yourself. And she simply ignores that and continues that woman will refer to him as commander or this interview will end. So gross, Serena. And then demands faster internet access and a giant house. Oh, and the judge's ruling needs to be expedited. Where does she get off? The commander and I have discussed it. We will not have our son born in this place. I just whatever. I have no words. And then Tuello gets weird, as he's wont to do. You really plan on living with the commander as husband and wife? Can you explain that to me, Serena? And he says that last part in a way that's legitimately like as if they have a thing going on the side, right? Like it's hurting his feelings. It doesn't make sense to him. They have this whole thing going on. It's baffling to me, but she hesitates before replying, I don't believe I have to, and goes back inside.
What was funny to me about that scene was that like a few episodes before, Tuello is like basically telling Serena that she needs to get back together with Fred and be on Fred's side for Tuella to, you know, basically them to work together to get more information out of Fred. And then all of a sudden she wants to move back in with Fred, and Tuella was like, what? I didn't push you back together. What? I thought you were going to move in with me. Aren't I your new boyfriend, Serena?
Exactly.
I find Tuello really hard to read in general. Like he doesn't seem to have very strong emotions, and I can't really read his expressions or the tone of his voice for the most part. But when he's with Serena, I can totally read him. But that's like the only time I can actually read him. He has this weird thing for her.
Very transparent with Serena.
I think that what the scene that Kimberly said, it was previous to June's testimony. So I think Tuello realized that Fred is a disgusting person. And also, I think he was expecting like Serena divorced Fred or something. And in this scene, Tuello is like realizing that the appearance is more important to Serena than justice, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So he looks so disappointed because he had an image from Serena like a powerful woman, you know? And this image is like breaking and falling apart because it's not true.
Yeah, and the way Serena talks about June and her testimony, as she puts this as if it were something, you know, trivial and, you know, almost infantile, that June wants to voice her trauma and, you know, make a testimony. It's like June said a couple of episodes ago, that Serena never gives her any credit. So even here, she doesn't need to be that way about June, but she's so dismissive and so belittling towards what she had done to June, and June wanting ICC or whoever to know about it. So she is not a very nice person.
And the gaze between Mark and Serena is amazing. The non-verbal communication between these two is deserve an award. It's amazing. The chemistry, oh my God.
Yeah, so they're good together.
Oh, did you just say Tuello and Serena had good chemistry?
Yes, they have.
Yeah, they do.
We agree.
Sorry, I've got another article. This one's from Bruce, and it was with Forbes magazine, and he says, as for questions about the relationship between Tuella and Serena, Miller explains that it is certainly complicated. It's more than professional. You have to understand that it's his job to study her, to know everything about her. He has so far coerced her to come across the border. He's doing his job very well. They manipulate one another. There's definitely chemistry, but I'm not sure where that chemistry will go.
Now, Emily and Oliver have walked over to Luke's, and June jokes, we've been brought good weather, even though it's obviously fucking freezing. And we get a call back to June's voiceover in season 1 when Emily replies, pious little shit. They talk about kids being impervious to the cold, a scientific fact, apparently, as Emily suggests. And then she asks June, so there wasn't anyone there for your testimony? And June says, nope, they taped it. Emily says they never stand for that in Gilead. And June says, no, they prefer their justice with a personal touch, nooses and such. And June remembers that her mom had their number from the get-go, observing that they bought a shitload more copies of the Old Testament than the New, which Emily points out is a much better read. The righteous will rejoice in vengeance and wash their feet in the blood of the wicked. Good stuff. And then June's crying, telling Emily how badly she wants to let go of Fred and focus on Hannah and Nicole and Luke. A good mother would be able to let go. And Emily doesn't reply. It's really sad, but I enjoy seeing her being so honest with Emily. You know, I don't think she's been this honest with anybody else about the struggle that she's feeling.
Emily understands.
Yeah, Emily is one of the few people who understand without saying much.
Yeah,
definitely. So I have one point here about Emily and June talking about how Gilead really loves the Old Testament. And well, yeah, they do. But basically, when we hear Nick reciting the Bible, he's always reciting the New Testament, even if it's like something pretty cruel or violent. He's still reciting the New Testament.
I didn't know that.
I think it's probably a pretty big sign.
Yep.
Yeah, that's got to be deliberate on their part, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. It's got to be a deliberate choice on his
Yeah.
part and the show's as well.
Yeah.
It's like a sign of his rebellion.
And it's interesting because that quote about what a man sows,
Yeah. At the end of the episode, yeah.
it says too in the Old Testament, but Nick chooses a part that is in the New Testament.
Oh,
So
that
it's
is
interesting.
That's
Yeah.
a deliberate choice. Wow.
And regarding the part, they talk about the Old and New Testament. Something that I also noticed is that the Old Testament talk much more about anger, but bad actions and punishment as consequences, while the New Testaments talk about forgiveness. So it's very interesting how these two different positions of the Bible are on how Gilead strictly follows the Old Testament, as doesn't care about taking anything from the New. So they don't speak about Jesus. He lives in a humble way.
Yeah.
And it's the complete opposite of everything Gilead believes. The New Testament is full with kings and treasures, or kingdoms and everything, and not the New Testament. The New Testament is all about Jesus and forgiveness and put the other cheek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Old Testament is good stuff, more violent.
Yes. More
Exactly.
exciting. But that reminds me of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, when he's like choosing the Holy Grail in the end, and the dumbass chooses like the fanciest cup, but Jesus was a carpenter, and it's anyway. I was just thinking Fred would choose like the fanciest cup too. Idiot.
He would.
That was
Totally.
really a big aside. Sorry. Then present day June's walking down a hall, interlaid with flashbacks of her in her handmaid gear walking to the ceremony in the Waterford house in Gilead. We hear flashback Fred say, "Blessed be the fruit," right before June walks into present day Fred's cell. And he did not know she was coming. "What an unexpected pleasure," he remarks. And June just says, "Hello, Fred." He follows with a Gileadian "blessed evening" and asks if he can call her June. She points out that is her name, always was, really. He tries it out. "Well then, June, why have you come?" When she tells him she heard he's going to Geneva, she figured this was her last chance. He laughs and says, "That doesn't sound like our June coming to wish me well." What a prick. She's walking around the room, touching his things, kind of showing her power over him now. And then Fred stuns with, "Out of respect, I hold no ill will, even after those things you said in court." And it is actually truly stunning that he can somehow view the truth as an insult to him.
Yeah.
I was appalled, even though I thought I could no longer be appalled by him. And June dismisses the guard at this point, which is hilarious because there's no way that they would leave these two alone. And June says, "Fred, we both know what happened." And Fred takes that to mean she's acknowledging that she had to frame things in front of the judge and your husband in a different light than she felt. So he really thinks she wanted to do the things that he made her do, and she doesn't want her husband to know that. For fuck's sake, you fucking asshole. He tries his hand at a half-assed apology next. "There were discomforts in my house, I know, for both of us. More for you, of course. And for that, I do have deep regrets. I don't know that I was able to fully appreciate your situation until now. As a father, to have my son taken away from me would be unimaginable. You must have experienced such terrible longing for your daughter, and for that, I'm sorry. Truly, deeply sorry." And she can't prevent the tears at this point, and she looks down, catching her breath, but then looks up differently, different face on, and humorlessly laughs. In interviews, Lizzie has revealed that this is the moment that she knew that she had to kill him, that apologizing is what made it clear he knew how wrong what he was doing was. So then she asks him for a drink, and somehow Fred has a fucking bar in his cell, and he gets her a drink to share together, and goes on, "What we had, it was vital. It was a relationship we both needed very badly to survive in our own ways. I wouldn't call it love, but there was something else, something very strong. Something else. Something strong is something that June can agree with. The rest of his delusion can be addressed later." He goes on that he finds himself missing her, Offred, and June finds she can agree with this a bit too, because Offred got to kill people. She says, "I miss her strength," and Fred calls her special, inspiring in a way. June proposes a toast to Offred, and Fred takes ownership of her too, to our Offred. So he's called her both our June and our Offred in this short meeting. It pisses me off.
Yeah, I love how they made this scene just as dark as the ones in the Waterford house when she went to the ceremony. Like when she walked down the hallway to his cell, it was all dark with all these like light fixtures on both sides of the hallway, and then even
Right.
in his cell, like there were these light spots there, but it was pretty dark, just like in Gilead.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And we can hear the bell, the ceremony bell.
Yeah.
And fun fact, my neighbor from downstairs has a clock that rings with the same kind of bell.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's
So
terrifying.
when I'm on my balcony and they have their balcony open downstairs, I can hear it like every half an hour. And I'm sorry, I have always think of June.
That's traumatizing. Oh man.
I love seeing June just put on her Fred face for
Yeah.
the last time, just to flash back to like season 1 when, you know, they're playing Scrabble and, you know, she's trying to manipulate him and he just thinks that, you know, she's falling for him and she's in love with him, and it's just great just to see it one last time.
It was nice. Yeah.
Definitely.
I also, yeah, like what you said, Kate, how that's the worst thing that survivors can hear is that, you know, your abuser apologizing to you, because it means like, you know, they actually knew what they were doing and they're not just insane psychopaths. And obviously I think Fred probably is, but he did know what he was doing. And, you know, here he's apologizing because now he's going to have a baby. And, you know, now he's going to feel that maybe he's not going to be with this baby. So he feels like he knows now what June went through.
It's so infuriating. Like, I hate anyone that can't empathize, period. But like the extent of this is so upsetting. And he like, it bothers me too when he says, you must have felt such terrible longing, when like she fucking told him all the time, right? Like, please, I need to see Hannah. And, you know, and he's like, oh, it just occurred to me you might be feeling longing for your child. What the fuck?
But paradoxically, he's like the only one who's acknowledging that, because Serena is not. Serena is dismissing everything. She thinks it's, you know, stupid of June to want to talk about it. Luke and Moira, to some extent, are not really ready to hear everything. And, you know, Fred is paradoxically the only one who's acknowledging, even though he doesn't understand, because he could never understand what it is he believes he understands, but he acknowledges this, which was weird for me a little bit there in that moment.
Yeah, that is interesting.
It's interesting that they talk about Offred in third person as if she were like a different person, like a different identity, which she kind of is. But it's interesting that they both use it, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, she feels like it's two different personalities right now. Don't know if they can merge or what.
Did you guys ever think that in this scene she was like, because I've read a few people thought, oh shit, like
gonna poison him? Yeah, I did.
Last year when I finished watching 409, I spent the next week thinking how many ways Witchun was going to kill Fred.
How many ways did you come up with?
How many was it?
I thought about everything. Poison, gun.
Yeah, except salvaging. Salvaging didn't occur to you?
No, never.
Yeah, no, but I did think she was going to poison him or something. I felt like something had to happen in that scene, but it was just setting up for what really happens.
I remember thinking when she sat down on the couch and then Fred starts apologizing and her face turns. So she puts on her Offred mask. I just don't do it here. Don't do it here. Don't kill him in this prison.
Cameras. It's good though that they make you feel that way every second, anticipating it. On the way home with Luke, he tells her they're going to have more security because Fred has some crazy followers, and she says they can have Fred the Redeemer. I know what he is. And Luke tries to tempt her with going out. Let's get a beer, and then goes on this strange tangent pretending Boston is still Boston. Let's get your Sox game. And the last time June was at Fenway was when she thought she was being hung, so maybe not a great suggestion. Anyway, she snaps him out of his fantasy when she says, I'm going to put Fred on the wall, on the fucking wall. And he looks at her very freaked out, shakes his head and quietly says, June, they're going to let him go, so you've got to let him go. As if this man hasn't raped her repeatedly for years. Like, where is Luke's rage here? It's so frustrating to me. Even if he's not on board with killing him, I get that. That makes sense. But the complete lack of rage at all and the willingness to just let him go is something I cannot wrap my head around.
Exactly. Like, even more, she was really angry. Although she didn't really want to kill Fred or anything, but she was really angry.
Right. That feeling needs to exist. It makes no sense in his situation that he's not feeling that.
I think he can't even start to wrap around his head around what happened to June, so he like dismisses it completely, and he's desperate to leave it behind, both of them, So I think that's his motivation here. Just, sprints towards
Right.
better times.
Right.
Usually I'm
Yeah.
the one who can sympathize with Luke, but this was probably one scene that I was just like, why are you just telling her to let it go? Like, why are you talking about Boston? Why?
Yeah, like that whole
Like,
thing was
ugh.
yeah.
I understand, though, I understand that Luke wants to move on, but this is not the way.
He does always live in this fantasy world, or tries to, and he succeeds, I think, most of the time. But taking it to Boston right now is just crazy to me,
Yeah.
He doesn't know what happened to June in Boston,
Right.
He
Yeah.
doesn't know.
That's kind of the problem, right? Because he doesn't know exactly what happened. Because, well, June also doesn't want to tell him.
What do you mean?
Because
He just said he knows it all. Now we can move on.
But he doesn't. So that's why he's, saying stuff like, let's go to Boston and catch a Sox game. Like, he doesn't know what this means, what kind of triggers.
Exactly, Helen.
Yeah.
Exactly. He doesn't know.
Then June's on a bench, and we find out it's outside of Tuello's apartment. She informs him Fred's not getting out, and when she tells him to change, she needs his car. He's going to help her, and they're not having a discussion. He loses his shit, telling her how inappropriate and unacceptable this is. She tells him, Gilead turns you into a bit of a cunt, and he genuinely laughs, as did I. Enjoyed that. Surprised at that admission, and she turns serious, tearful. It's just, I need Fred to get what he deserves. And Tuello understands, but he doesn't know what he can do for her. And she's like, I've got it all figured out already. Just give me a ride. And they travel in this this long convoy. And it's interesting to me how many vehicles are involved in this meeting versus her meeting with Nick, which was like no security whatsoever. And when they get there, Tuello confirms that he's promised safe passage. A bit late for that, my friend. But momentarily, we find out he's talking about Lawrence. They meet inside an abandoned diner.
Yay!
I know, I love Lawrence. And June can barely conceal her smile as Lawrence pretends to be offended at the idea of a deal for his lost countrymen. He's not a used Subaru. Tuello says he's singing like a bird. Of course you want him home. And Lawrence points out he's not trustworthy, offers him a monetary policy change in exchange for Fred. And June tells him, Joseph, don't be a dick. And then he gets a folder out with 22 women that they're offering. Tuello says he thought most of them were dead. And June looks at Tuello and says, you cannot say Fred Waterford is worth more than these 22 women. You can't say that. And Tuello promises to take it to his boss. He leaves June and Lawrence for a moment, and Lawrence compliments her. Well, you haven't lost your touch. But then he gets real. It won't be enough. Whatever happens to him, if we get him, it won't be enough for you. And she stares at him for a long beat before dismissing him with a God bless you, Joseph. But it got to her. She understood what he was saying, that he's probably not wrong.
Yep, I just love Lawrence. Just him sitting there. June Osborne, as I live and breathe. Like everything he says is just so funny to me, even if it's not supposed to be funny.
Single
Everything.
line, it's crazy.
It really is. Yeah. He's
The
amazing.
show needed him. Like he was such a good addition to the show.
He's like a comedian of Handmaid's Tale.
Comedic relief of the show.
It is, and it needed it. It's so heavy that oh man, he's perfect. He's so important.
Bradley Whitford is just so good. Like I could not imagine anyone else in this role.
Yeah, he's perfect. He's perfect for this role, definitely.
But I have one question about the scene. Where are those women that Lawrence is offering? Are they in prison now? In the colonies?
Yeah, I wondered that as well.
I think in jail, like in these cages.
That's what I was picturing. They're in those cages that June went to back in season 3 when she picked 5 out. But I don't know how long people stay in those cages. I don't know.
I had an idea then these are women who are being held at the I compound, like June was in 4 or 3.
Yeah,
and I think maybe there was files and those women are there because Nick helped Lawrence out with the deal, so he offered the prisoners to exchange because he's an I, so he has access to prisoners and to their files.
Yeah. It's hard for me to picture them marching like 22 people out of the Eyes compound and getting away with it. But I like to believe that that's true.
Well, some of them had the prison dresses on with the stripe.
The stripe?
Yeah. Some of them had those and some were just Martha's, I think.
Good observation. Cool.
And this proves how little women are worth.
Oh, yeah, right. 22 for one. Jesus Christ.
Exactly. 22 women for one man.
And this deal was it was really good for Tuello. right? Because he
Yeah.
got rid of Fred.
He's definitely got the information off Fred now. He doesn't like, he might still need him for some stuff, but he's got a fair amount of.
So that
Yeah.
part was weird to me. Like, that doesn't seem fair to Fred, which I don't care about. But it's like they've gotten all the information off him already. I feel like you can't now be like, okay, we'll take back the deal. Or that I guess Fred shouldn't speak until the deal is like finalized.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it though.
Yep.
It's Fred, so
Yep.
good. Fine.
I was just wondering, maybe Tuello and his colleagues realized that Fred was lying, or he wanted to lie about every single thing they asked him about. So he wasn't really the kind of informant that they were looking for. He wasn't the perfect informant. Like, he wasn't everything they were looking for, everything they wanted and thought him to be.
Right.
Like, that's just total bullshit.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
Would they have interviewed like Rita and stuff like that? Because obviously she's seen a lot of stuff.
We know Moira, wrote a testimony, but we have not heard anything about Rita. Rita seems to want really to wash her hands of it all. So then we're back in Luke's dark kitchen and they're discussing the new deal. Luke states if it goes as planned, he'll go back to Gilead and they will put him on trial and they will put him in jail. LOL, jail.
Ha.
Yeah.
Ha.
Nobody bothers to straighten him out, but Emily suggests maybe he'll go to the colonies, asks if they'll ever know what happens to him. And Moira says she doesn't care. She just wants him gone. She spent too much of her life thinking about him. When it's just June and Emily that get real, Emily asks what June really wants, and she admits that she wants him to be afraid. How afraid? She asks. Like in the woods when I was caught, when they took Hannah? And Emily pushes her harder. More than that, June looks at her because they get each other. And she says, I want him to be scared to death. And Luke over here is part of this, and he looks very freaked out.
This is one of my favorite exchanges between Emily and June, just because the acting as well and just what they're saying is just like, I felt the goosebumps.
Yeah, it was amazing. I loved Emily's expression when she was asking June how afraid she wanted Fred to be.
It's funny how everyone is like tiptoeing around Luke. He maybe go to prison. Prison in Gilead. Like, what the fuck?
Well, that's what I was thinking. Why didn't Moira or Rita like say something? They obviously know that I guess there was a trial, like when Emily and Martha sort of had a trial, but like air quotes trial.
I think maybe they figured that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether he knows what really goes on in Gilead if you end up in prison or if you end up in court for some reason.
I'm impressed how Luke thinks that Gilead is like a normal society with trials and everything.
Well, they have trials, but the trials are, a joke. And jail is for torture and then death, either, by torture or by wall. So there is no real jail time in Gilead.
I also remember the scene, I think it was with Rachel tapping, and Luke was saying, will she go on trial? Like when she was captured in 403, and she was like, usually we don't really hear what happens to them after that. So they obviously don't even know what happens.
Fred comes into Serena's cell. He's about to leave for Geneva. She thanks him for the miracle that he's accomplished, which Fred attributes to God's hand and Fred's love for the two of them. Serena thanks him and gives him in-flight reading. He says he wishes she was coming with her. And she's still reserved. There's some awkwardness here. A lot, I guess. He suggests they could try to Zoom when he gets there. Nice little COVID shout out. And she says, sure, Fred, we can Zoom. And then her phone rings and she has to jump on a conference call. So that's their goodbye. Sure, Fred, we can Zoom. Actual last words were have a safe flight from her and praise be from him. And they didn't touch each other once in their last interaction.
Serena backed off.
Yeah, I noticed the same thing.
She just made it clear she's just using Fred to get whatever. And there's also the phrase I never thought I'm gonna hear on The Handmaid's Tale. We can Zoom.
Zoom. But I think that Fred is honestly thinking about Serena in his son. I think
he wants more. Yeah,
he wants more. He had hope for the last couple of minutes.
Makes it better what happens.
Yeah, I think she's totally checked out of this relationship.
Yeah, that seems evident. And Fred's walking out of the center looking very smug as Tuello catches up with him. Fred remarks, "Oh, this is a surprise. I didn't think you'd be coming with us to Geneva." And Tuello delights in telling him, you're not going to Geneva. And I kind of feel like Tuello's extraness here and his delivery is more personal than political. Fred demands his lawyer, and Tuello informs him he no longer has a lawyer. The ICC court has ruled you unfit for leniency, and you are now in my custody. As they throw him in the back of the truck, he screams the best lines he could possibly deliver at this point in his life.
Yep.
I have rights. I'm a man and I have rights. I laughed so hard.
Delightful. That was
Because
delightful.
only men have rights, right?
Sexist asshole right
Yep.
to the end.
He has the right to shut the hell up.
Yep. No, I just wanted to say I like that Tuello's boss is a woman, because when he's on the phone, he says, "Thank you, ma'am." So I like that.
I love Sam Yeager in these scenes where he's arresting someone. I think that's where he really shines. Like, I really believe him. I like Tuello when he's
Yeah.
arresting people.
Yeah, he has some BDE when he's doing that.
He does. And I would like to say I actually really like Sam Yeager in other things. And he's really good in
yeah.
this, even though
Yeah.
he infuriates me. I talk a fair amount of shit about Tuello, but I love you, Sam Yeager.
I go back and forth with Tuello. I don't know.
You tend to give people more chances than I do. I hold grudges.
Yeah, you really do.
Then we see June leaving the house in her red coat and looking up into the kitchen window where Luke, Moira, and Holly are being an adorable little family unit. She's making a choice right now of killing Fred in exchange for being a mom and a wife, which reminds me of when her mom told her, this is no time to be playing house. You need to get out on the streets and fight. Holly would be proud.
Yes, thank you for mentioning that.
I hope Holly has a chance to be proud.
I love that she's chosen the red coat as well. Such a great choice.
Yeah.
Not easy to run in, but worth it.
No, very heavy.
Then we see the coolest foggy bridge shot and Fred's truck pulling up to the bridge. They pull him out of the truck where Tuello joins him and informs him he's going home. And in a rush, he tells the others to check the women they're trading him for and get them on the move as soon as possible. Tuello reassures him, your government has made us a guarantee that you'll be tried under the formal Gilead justice system. You helped write those laws, didn't you? It worked for these women. Now it's your turn. As 22 Marthas and prisoners, I guess, walk by him. As 22 women walk by him. Fred tells Tuello he'll have to face God with this decision. He'll be the judge of you, not I. He knows what's in your heart. He knows what you desire, what you covet.
So Fred really isn't that delusional. He knows that Tuello wants Serena.
Those are his last words to him.
Yeah.
So funny.
I remember Sarah mentioning that it's interesting that Fred picked up on that, even though he haven't picked up on Nick and June for the longest time. He did pick up on Tuello and Serena, yeah.
And Tuello turns around, heads back to Canada as the eyes take Fred. And a moment later, we see who Fred's being delivered unto, Joseph Lawrence. And he sarcastically rejoices, praise be, our nation's prayers have been answered. Fred doesn't bother with the niceties and launches directly into his defense. Everything I did for my family. And Lawrence narrows his eyebrows and just says, all right. I laughed at that. And it reminded me also of the way that June said okay to Janine when she told her she wasn't a mushroom.
Okay.
Yeah. And then someone's getting out of a truck, and look who it is, Nicholas Blaine himself. And he does a little collar pop, so we know he knows how cool he is in this move. When he gets to Lawrence and Fred, he greets them and commands the eyes take the prisoner into custody. Lawrence innocently asks if his objecting would make a difference, and Nick explains, unfortunately, no, at the border, the eyes maintain control. Well, he seems to have us over a barrel, and with that, Lawrence takes his hat off to bid him farewell and says, go in grace, Fred. And I just really hope Fred remembers what he did to the Lawrences in June that night as he walks away from Lawrence. This is from Eleanor too, asshole.
Yeah.
I love how Nick is like subtly let Fred knows that he was an eye all the time.
Yeah.
I just been waiting for my chance.
I also love at the big when Tuello just kind of drops Fred and like runs away. So like he doesn't know anything that's going to happen, so he can basically say, no, I didn't see what's going to happen after this.
I think Tuello does not know also what will happen next.
No, probably not.
He knows he's going to die, but I don't think that he has any idea that it will be by June. Yeah. But then Fred's got to switch to trying to manipulate Nick, so he calls him son, like once per you will regret this sentence, and then a few more times getting in the truck for good measure. But Nick is a man of few words, and June has instructed him she wants Fred scared, so they hook him up in the truck like she was shackled, except no muzzle. Perhaps they want to hear his pathetic begging.
Oh, and I love this shot of from above when the eyes are putting Fred into the van, and Nick stands in front of the van and throws like this giant shadow it's kind of symbolic for
Yeah.
his role in
Nick.
everything.
Right.
And, you know,
Yeah.
he's now above Fred. He's much bigger than Fred, so he can do with him what he pleases. And what pleases him is, you know, please June. So
Then Nick is walking him through the coolest looking moonlit woods, and Fred's still talking, begging to know where he is, eventually working his way into demanding answers. I have questions and they deserve answers. And Nick can't hold back any longer and pistol whips him across the face.
The way Fred says fuck when he drops to the ground after
Yeah.
he hit him, it's so funny. I'd laugh so much at that. He's like, fuck.
It's so
This
good.
scene is priceless.
It's so good. And you know that he's trying, like, he's leaving this to June, even though I'm sure he would delight in doing this, right? But he can't help but like mar the canvas a little bit. He gets one good hit in, and I fucking love it. And it's for like Offred One and everybody else too.
Yep.
Then Fred gets up and it's almost showtime. A moment later, Nick sees June and delivers a real Bible verse from the New Testament. Do not be deceived. God is not to be mocked. For whatever man sows, so shall he reap. You did this to yourself, Commander. And June casually walks right by him and right up to Nick. And as usual, without speaking, he knows it's time for a murder kiss. And they kiss as Fred yells, "What the fuck? This is fucking sick" behind them. And it's just so fun. Oh my God, I love it so much. Let's play it back. I did that many times. When they pull apart, it's time for a brief forehead touch and a very genuine thank you from June to Nick before he turns to leave her to it. And she continues looking after him for like a long moment with hearts shooting out of her eyes before her face, and the music turns dark and she turns back.
I love that.
She's brilliant at conveying emotions.
yes. And I declare this like the best Nick and June kiss. Because
Yeah,
it's
is
like, yeah, because they're all, you know, everything's striped away, you know, there's just who they are. You know, just
I
not a
love that
goodbye or I wish or whatever. It's just them doing what needs to be done. And I remember talking to Scarlett and she said it's like Gilead made them that way in a way.
Right.
So they're good people, but they're doing this bad thing or, you know, or objectively bad thing. But this is who they are.
And they understand each other, and it's just like, and there's no question that they're gonna kiss here, and it's just like everything about it.
They're like 100% on the same page, on the same line on the page, you know.
They're lucky Fred wasn't like into athletics or something, you know. He could have...
It's kind of a risky move to let, like, men are faster than women. That's a fact. If you're not, you know, if you don't work out or try to become faster. So I guess
it was dark, so you know, he's tripping over shit.
She could have left his handcuffs on, and that would have given them the upper. But hey, she didn't need to. They got him.
One thing about the verse that Nick is saying, because it does not speak about anger, like I was talking previously. This talk about the future consequences of your own actions is interesting, because I'm sure that it not only applies to Fred or June, but also probably to Nick, Tuello, and Lawrence. The consequences about this moment, about this decision in particular. So it's interesting to see how this will develop next season.
If there are consequences, it will be interesting to see. Yeah,
can't wait to find out. June unlocks Fred's handcuffs as he praises her for being a good and kind woman and a mother. And she's taking a page from Nick's playbook and playing it quiet. She moves back in front of him and just offers her hands and says, "Choose softly," a gun in one hand and a whistle in the other. Oddly, Fred says, "I know you can't shoot me," which June excitedly takes to mean she gets to use the whistle. And she wastes
Such a bad choice.
Yeah. So she wastes no time blowing the whistle, and suddenly so many flashlights are coming over the crest of the hill she came from, and Fred starts to finally get it. Or I thought he did, but then he calls her Offred again, that dumb motherfucker. Anyway, then he goes the parent route. "I have a son. I guess she never relayed how it went down with Winslow, because really that's the worst thing you can say to her. But nothing matters anymore. She softly says, 'Run,' and he takes off after a beat, and the women are running after him as she voices over again, same as the beginning. 'It has to look like love. That's what he needs. Pretend you like it. Pretend you love it. Pretend you want it. He is your commander. He is your whole world. Don't run. Don't kick. Don't scream.' And Fred falls then, watching her approach, knowing he doesn't have a chance. And 'You Don't Own Me' starts playing, which could not be more perfect. June takes a deep inhale remembering Jezebel's, and then delivers the first kick. And then she starts hitting him repeatedly before Emily takes this cute little murder jump start, and everybody joins in. And then she holds his head for June, who looks like she's inhaling his soul like a Dementor, before she bites a huge chunk out of his face. Which chunk was it?
I think it was a cheek.
I thought it was his lip.
I thought it was his lip as well.
But the scene ends with an aerial shot of the flashlights in a circle around the women as they beat Fred to death. And I'm glad that they discussed the choreography before they got there, because I do love the aerial circle patterns from so many previous scenes as well.
But I like the parallel to the actual persecutions that we saw in season 1, which were all shot from above as well.
Yeah.
I was discussing with Kate that they love circles. You know, when they're doing the shame circle, when they're walking in twos with Aunt Lydia outside, after the fake hanging when they're all got their arms with the rocks and it's raining, all circles.
That one's like circles within circles. They look awesome. It's a good choice.
And obviously the whistle with Aunt Lydia in episode 1.
We should point out the fact that Fred actually came up with a salvaging system per the book, I believe. So this could not have been a better, more appropriate ending for our man
full
Fred.
circle.
Yep. Oh, it's just so good. It's so good, you guys. I was jumping on the bed. I was so excited.
I was reading that Joe Fine said that he was like all padded up. So they did actually do that scene with, like, you know, kicking.
They were actually beating the shit out of him. And he didn't use, they had the stuntman there and they didn't use him. Like,
wow,
that's
dedication.
Like, no, I'm gonna do this. I mean, it is, and it was freezing cold, and they filmed all night him just getting the shit beaten out of him, and he deserved an Emmy, and
just for that,
he did, literally. It's shocking to me. Then it's the next morning, and birds are chirping. You can hear the sounds of water, peaceful sounds, peaceful music, and the women are walking out of the woods. Eventually, you hear some car unlocking beeps, which is kind of cool with the chirps. And a few cars pull away as we're looking at June, trying to figure out how she feels. And she inhales as if she can breathe again. Then we see Serena waiting for a Zoom that's never coming as she admires her belly. And then a mail cart's being pushed down the hallway. And I will never forgive them for not just letting us see her get the finger. Damn it. But instead, the mail guy opens the envelope, and which is probably accurate to reality, but he opens the envelope and out falls Fred's wedding ring and then his finger. And I love it. Still wish she'd opened it, but I love that she sent her a finger.
I'm sure she bit it off as well.
It's a good question. How?
Do you reckon Serena could just kind of glue that finger back on to her missing one?
To where she's missing? I was just about to say we shouldn't miss saying that the finger is appropriate, but that's good.
Souvenir.
Yeah.
How did you manage to get the finger in Serena so fast? Because the envelope is said by a messenger, I think.
Yeah.
How did you like order FedEx, UPS?
She paid double for that.
No, she paid a courier, I think. So somebody that like physically delivers it.
Yeah. Like a bike
is the only way that I
like
can.
That. Yeah.
Yeah.
She paid the fastest shipping option.
Then June's home. She walks upstairs to Holly's nursery and she talks to her through the crib slats first and starts crying. She picks her up and she's holding her when Luke comes out of his room and sees her. And he says, June, in disbelief at how she looks, blood everywhere, including on the baby. And he slides down the wall, distraught, like crying. And June's back to bonding with Holly, telling her, Mommy loves you so much, and kissing her nose. And she says to Luke, just give me 5 minutes, before the camera pulls away. And the episode ends on a shot of Fred's corpse hanging on the wall of some ruins in the woods with the words, Nolite te bastardes carborundorum below him. Perfection. Such a fucking perfect episode of television. The first time I watched this at midnight last year, I was legitimately jumping up and down on the bed screaming while my husband slept. It was amazing. I love it. And obviously that phrase was what she wrote in her, was what the first Offred wrote in her closet. So it's nice for her as well.
Again, full circle.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
They're good at that.
So did you guys think that June just thought that Luke would automatically just kick her out of the house?
I think
now?
she's like, when she made that decision, when she was looking up at the kitchen, she was like, this is it. I'm going to have to leave now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was willing to take a risk at least.
Well, just the way that Luke's reacted to every single thing since she got back, like even her like talking to Emily about Irene, and he's like, June, and he's just like yelling at her, right? Like, why would you say that? And he's just reacting really harshly to everything, normal that she's even saying. So of course he would freak out about this, I think, How could he just go along with this?
Yeah. Well, I guess actually killing someone is probably a little different.
If you're freaking out about me, like trying to force Emily to face her issues, then of course he's gonna. I mean, most normal people would freak the fuck out about your spouse killing somebody, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you would.
Yeah, and June said on the boat to Moira that she knows how much Luke can take.
Right.
So she was probably sure,
Sadly.
or she was sure that this is something he cannot take.
I think she mentions about being a good mother, because that is what society pretends, that a good mother always put children first, and now she already carries the guilt for not having been a good mother for Nicole, for Hannah, and obviously June kills a person, so she isn't a good mother in her eyes. So I think that's why she wanna leave the house, because she knows she isn't a good example for Nicole. And what Helen was saying about Luke not approving this or understanding.
Well, she killed Winslow. She killed before. She killed in persecutions. She killed in salvagings.
But Luke has no idea. Like, no idea. Not even Moira.
Yeah.
The ending for me is interesting because it's open, but also I think most of us think about she was going to leave the house and go back to Gilead to fight, because that makes sense.
It does look like that, right? That she's choosing the fight over being a good mother, in her own words, right?
Yeah.
Holly did that too.
Yeah, and I like that parallel. She's become a lot more like her mom over the years.
Yeah, and I think that you understand
definitely
her mom now.
Right. Well, this is insane. I guess that's a wrap on 4 seasons of The Handmaid's Tale.
Yes.
It's kind of wild that this is a wrap on this whim project of ours that turned into a kind of a big deal. We've just done like 85 episodes, and it's been insanely fun. And I didn't even know you guys before this. I don't know if everybody knows that, but we literally came together from our enjoyment of this show. I learned, I caught so much more than I didn't see the first time around. And it's been really fun analyzing all the characters, and I love this show.
It's amazing how much you don't pick up on the first watch. You definitely need to watch it
and
a few
how
more
many
times.
things make sense after you've seen later episodes and you come back to the earlier ones.
Yeah,
and it's like, it's stunning to me how far in advance they must have planned some things, and I'm sure some just they thought of later on, but like you said, all the full circle moments. It's pretty incredible. And I've never seen a show with literally every single aspect. Kind of blows your mind, you know, cinematography, music, God,
performance,
like art direction, you know, whoever puts different paintings that are of meaning on the walls. And
I've seen the storyboards lately. They are like mind-blowing, the pictures and the storyboards.
And how cool is that? Like every single little aspect and every single cast member is incredible. They just hit it out of the park.
Yeah.
Good job, Bruce, pulling everybody together. Like, that's amazing. Yeah, I don't know. It feels weird to finally finish season 4. We started this, like November?
And Warren.
Yeah. And we've heard like amazing things. I feel like I see more coming from Bruce in interviews that we read, but we've heard amazing things about Warren from cast and crew, like not on here. So he seems like an incredible person too. And obviously we love Lizzie so much.
Yes.
And we can't wait till season 5 on September.
Get your Hulu
14th.
account ready and subscribe to our podcast. If you've made it this far into our ramblings, I suppose you probably have subscribed to our podcast. So thank you. To our listeners, we thought we were just going to be doing this for each other to listen to, basically. And we have grown and grown and grown, and it's really impressive. And we're really grateful to all the listeners out there and people that also interact with us a lot on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook. So come find us there if you haven't already, because we do post stuff daily. Kimberly makes these incredible collages that are super pretty, and we like to show them off. So come find us, and thank you for listening. And last but not least, thank you to Bruce Miller, who's been incredibly supportive of us and helpful. And he interacts with us on Twitter quite a bit, tells us a lot of behind the scenes stuff we would never know. So you should come to Twitter just for that. We did. Thank you, Bruce, for everything. Come back next week on Wednesday for our analysis of season 5, episode 1 of The Handmaid's Tale and season 5, episode 2. There will be 2 separate discussions released at the same time next Wednesday. Many thanks to the powers that be for giving us access to the episodes early. I cannot thank you enough for that. Otherwise, tonight, actually, at 7:10 p.m. on our website, which we will post on our social media sites, you can read our review of Season 5 of The Handmaid's Tale through Episode 8. We made it as spoiler-free as possible, but discuss the themes in these episodes. So check that out. Come find us on Twitter and Instagram. And we will see you next week for Season 5.
Bye.
Bye.
Old MacDonald had a farm. E-I-E.
All right, that's what we're going to use.
Yes.
And
Yes.
on that
Let's go with it.
farm, he had a piggy. Piggy.
I thought you sing it in
piggy,
Australia.
Wait, you know what you could sing? Do you guys know that song? I come from a land down under. Women grow and a Vegemite sandwich.